Good morning, student. My name is Shivam Mishra, and we are here for discussing the newspaper analysis of the day. So let's get started. Our first topic. It's about tourism in India. India's tourism sector is recently underperforming, with only 5.6 million foreign tourists arrived in August 2025, according to the given data. So compared to like Singapore countries, where it gets to 11.6 million tourists, where Thailand we got $60 billion earnings from tourism. So in comparison to that, Indian tourism sector is currently underperforming. This highlights the issues in which India's tourism strategy, which need to be focused on creating the seamless, safe, and memorable experience. So, if we consider the data, we got Singapore countries where we see the influx of 11.6 million tourists. We got the Thailand where there is $60 billion earning from tourism sector. And with comparison to that, India only have the influx of 5.6 million foreign tourists. Thus, the article suggests that India's current tourism sector is underperforming. Which it later talks about that how the tourism sector should be. It should be seamless, it should be safe, it should be memorable. Indian tourism challenges are summarized as like image, infrastructure, and India's itself. The Incredible India program, which was actually an program to promote tourism in India, struggles against the negative perception of there are negative perceptions like safety, scams, we got other like bureaucratic hurdles, or you can say administration inefficiency. So these, although India came up with the program like Incredible India to promote the tourism sector, but still with these programs faces some negative challenges or some negative perceptions like bureaucratic hurdle, safety, scams have been we have seen across the scams while in transportation sectors also, while most of the tourisms not aware of the not aware of the exact fares or value of those things, like we have seen in the Kumbh Mela. We got Kumbh Mela here, where the people were charged 5,000 rupees even for traveling 1 kilometers. So these kind of scams and this creates a negative perceptions for the tourism sector in India, where the article suggests that market should focus on segments like spiritual and adventurer India. Now we see how we categorize it. Spirituals, India has a lot of temples, spiritual places. India also have a diverse climatic conditions, diverse geography. Like we got the Himalayas mountains. In the north, we got Western Ghats. We got oceans. We got uh, deserts. So we got different diverse geographical terrains. So it can offer the adventure to the tourism sector. Although otherwise we got the number of religious sects, We got the number of uh, holy places, spiritual places, places of worship. We got number of rivers which are considered sacred, ghats. So these are here to promote the spiritual tourism. So this is what the article suggesting is about. It also tells that we got infrastructure. Infrastructure actually a pillar of the tourism sectors. We need hotels to stay. We need good food. We need a good supply of amenities to the tourism sectors, and that is why infrastructure becomes a very important sector. And because of the poor infrastructure development, that poor first impressions at airport only we got to see, where there is inadequate last mile connectivity. We, tourists often risk themselves going into the dark places. There is no mobility options, no uh, good transportation sectors, cleaning facilities like hygiene is an important aspects with the tourist sectors, with the tourism consider it about. So hygiene also, there is a travel cost, and all those things consider it as an infrastructural bottleneck, or we can say it's a structural bottleneck. The scale of India tourism, tourism scale of India can overwhelm tourists with issues like crowds, noise, lack of tourist-friendly services. The hospitality sector faces 40% shortfall in trained staffs, and there is a lack of trained people, especially in service sector. And according to the article, it talks about that there is a 40% only people who are trained in hospitality sectors, and that is why this also degrade the tourism. Immigration process need reform with suggestions like visa on arrival. So these are suggestions to boost the tourism sector, like how we can how we can boost the tourism sector. So if we have to write the main answer, we can write it through these points. Tourist sectors, like we need trained people in hospitality sector. We need immigration issues. We have seen the kind of bureaucratic hurdles, red tapeism. People had to face many checkups and many kind of things. They had to go to the files and all that to get passed through the government hurdles. So the article suggests that easing in the immigration process, like visa on arrival, it will ease immigration. So overall, it will promote the more people will be coming to this country. And it is asking about multi-pronged strategies needed to address the India's tourism deficit, including rebranding with targeted narratives, promoting well-defined circuits. Like we need multi-pronged strategy. Multi-pronged strategy covers PPP strategy, partnership to maintain the heritage sites, improve transportation, launch clean tourism. So these things can be solved with the private public private partnership. We need the development of circuits, like well defined circuits, targeted narratives to promote to attract the tourist. We need digital storytellings. We need to invest in digital infrastructure also. Museums should be made more digital and more interactive to enhance visitor experience. Safety and training should be prioritized. So we need safety and training prioritized, so that by expanding the tourist police force, like we can dedicate a force which is related to only tourism purpose. We need skill development, includes homestays and local artisans. Recently, government came up with a program where rural peoples can promote the rural tourism. So this was a step to it. People can rent their houses and they can earn for their livelihood. It also talks about faster e-visas, long-term multi uh, multi-entry visas is crucial. It is also promoting sustainability and authenticity is vital, and with focus on ecotourism, community-based tourism. The community should be involved in order to take care of the tourism sectors. We need ecological, environmental tourisms, where we can use the India's potentials of different diverse geographical terrains as a promote to tourism sectors. And what it will help to gain in India? It will help India's uh, tax collection. Tax collection will be increased. It will also promote India as a international level. There can be employment, more employment generation. There can be, especially for the youths, and for this we need skilling of people. It will overall create the job opportunities. It will also help in collection of, like we already talked about, the collection, tax collection. It can be both direct and indirect. GST, corporate tax. We can see the more development. It will strengthen India's soft power. So all these will be benefit if we promote the tourism sector in India. The next article talks about the Supreme Court regarding the Aadhaar based passport. Recently there was a case in Supreme Court, and the decision was Supreme Court objected to argument that Aadhaar should be excluded from identity verification document during the special intensive revision exercise due to forgery concern, noting that passport also outsourced to provide to private agencies can be forged as well. Recently, there was a case where Supreme it went to Supreme Court, and people asked that Aadhaar should be excluded from identity verification for the SIR issues. There was a SIR issues where it is a special intensive revision, and this is a revision to the electoral rolls done by Election Commission. So Election Commissions came up with the guidelines where a group of 9 documents can be used to update in the SIR or to update oneself in the electoral rolls. But the case related to this was the people asked to exclude the Aadhaar card for the verification of SIR, because Aadhaar can be forged. They can be made from from the any point of any at any shop, and they can be printed, and they can be copied, and they can be modified, they can be forged. So there was a chances of misuse of it. but but the Supreme Court objected it, that even the passport can be forged. So we should avoid passports also from identifying as a SIR. So this could not be an justifiable arguments. So that was only the case all about. We already have seen the SIR process, how it has been, the main information we can recall, that it has not been explicitly mentioned in the, not mentioned in Constitution. Article 3 to 4, which is about giving authority to Election Commission, it empowered the Election Commission to uh, prepare an electoral roll and modify it after every, or not every census, but it can be uh, updated with the time basis. There was no time limit and there was no time mentioned there. So this was all about this article. The next article is about, can ED, Enforcement Directorate, can file writ petitions before the courts. On January 2026, Supreme Court agreed to examine if the ED can invoke the writ jurisdiction of constitutional courts, following petition from Kerala and Tamil Nadu challenging Kerala High Court, a ruling supporting the ED's right to do so. The Supreme Court can issue prerogative writs under Article 32 of the Constitution. So this is an fundamental rights. According to this, if any of the fundamental rights have been violated, the person can directly approach to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court issue the writs. It can issue the writs. Writs is basically an order which has been issued, and there are different forms of, like, habeas corpus. We got mandamus. We got prohibition. There are and like certiorari. There is quo warranto. These are the 5 writs, and according to the writs, it gives the order to the authority to do so in accordance with the law, where the fundamental is violated, to restore the fundamental right, to protect the fundamental right. So Supreme Court can issue the prerogative. Prerogative means it can be issued before writs. It can issue prerogative writs under Article 32 of the Constitution. While High Court have similar power, the High Court also have a power to issue writs under Article 2 to 6, which allow them to issue writs for enforcing the fundamental rights and other legal rights. So here the scope of writs of High Court is greater than Supreme Court, because Supreme Court can issue writs only under the cases of fundamental right violations, but High Court can issue writs not only of violation of fundamental rights but other legal rights also. There was a case where Kerala High Court ruled that ED established under Section 36 of the Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA, that is FEMA, and is a statutory body entitled to invoke the writ jurisdictions of high courts under Article 26. Because it was established under the FEMA, then ED becomes an statutory body which works under the Ministry of Finance, which It sees the uh, cases related to of currency, foreign money, or we can say where the money cases are involved, especially corruption cases are involved. The case involves the diplomatic gold smuggling incident, where 30 kg of gold was seized at Thiruvananthapuram International Airport, leading to investigation by National Investigation Agency and ED under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. The Kerala government challenged ED's writ petitions, arguing that ED is a department of union government and not a juristic person capable of suing or being sued, and that dispute should be resolved under Article 3131 of the Constitution. So, in August 2021, the single judge of Kerala High Court rejected the state's objection, affirming that ED is a statutory body. Now, the Kerala other one judge, single judge bench of Kerala High Court rejected this, that ED is not an statutory body and it has been a department or government body as an executive body, and thus the officer exercising statutory powers can maintain a writ petitions under Article 226. Thus, this is only the case lying before the Supreme Court and we will decide it further. Next topic is about 66% central government sanitation worker are SC, ST and OBC. There was a Department of Personal Training which has revealed the report that 66% of Group C sanitation workers in the union governments are from SC, ST, OBC. In Group A post, that is, this is about Group C post. In Group A post, 14.2% are held by SCs, 6.54% by ST and 19.14% by OBC, while Department of Personnel and Training regulation mandate 15% reservation for SCs, 7.5% for the STs, 27% for OBC and 10% from the EWS. The report shows that Group C talks about that Group A we got 14.2% of SCs. We have 6.54% of ST and 90.14% of OBC. Where if you see the reservation case, then SC gets a reservation of 15%. We got STs as a reservation of 7.5% and OBC got 27%. So this is the comparative report. If the reservation has been provided 15%, but the authority, the position held is only 14.2%, 6.54% less than how much the reservation is provided. The report also shows that Group C, excluding sanitation workers, 16.75% are SCs, 8.94% are STs, and 27.29% are OBCs. Overall, there was 32.52 lakh union government employees. Union means central government employees. Across 80 ministries and departments. Out of this, SC represent 16.84%, ST represent 8.7% and OBC represent 26.32%. This report lacks data on EWS representation. This is the first comprehensive data released on SC, ST and OBC since 2018-19 report, and this report has came up by the Department of Personal Training. Compared to 2018-19, the scheduled caste representation has decreased and ST representation has increased and OBC representation saw highest rise. There was increase in representation of them, OBC, ST, and there was decrease in representation of SCs, according to this report. The next one is Environment Ministry has amended rules to allow industrial units to use single application for permission under Air and Water Acts, various waste management rules, aiming to streamline the process and reduce multiple applications. The Environment Ministry, which is like Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, it has came with the single window clearance where multiple industry 1, 2, 3, 4 multiple industry can get their clearance related to air, related to water, waste management rules and other liabilities. They need to be cleared at a single window, and here this is what Ministry of Forest Climate Change provides it. This integrated consent are intended to shorten approval timeline. Of course, it is going to reduce the timing of which the application is applied and which the permission is given. It will also maintain the strong provision for monitoring, compliance and cancellation with application typically made to state pollution control boards. Thus, the amendment aims to ensure faster and more efficient approval process, supporting state pollution control board and pollution control committees in process consent application and conducting inspection, while removing uncertainty due to delays in renewal of consent to operate provision. There was reducing the paperwork and compliance burden on industry, which will ensure the continuity of the operation. Environmental compliance will still be enforced through periodic inspection, and consent can be cancelled in case of violation, with the processing time of red category industry reduced from 20 days. We got the categorization by Ministry of Forest and Climate Change. There is a red category, orange category, we got white category, we got blue category, and based on these categories the industries has been classified as if like red is the most polluting industry. I think there's a yellow also in between, but I'm not sure of. So you can guys you can go and check up on somewhere where the static information can be given regarding this, and for a rough figure we can see of that this has been the categorization of industries, and according to these categorizations the ministry provides an limits, provide and rules and regulations and liabilities should be created on, and like polluter pays principle. We got other provisions like EPRs, e-waste management bills, e-waste management rules. So this has been a difficult task, and it requires the clearance of environment ministry, like white category which is considered as non-polluting industry, so it does not require the environment clearance. Otherwise the red categories which is considered as the most polluting industry, and they faces various hurdle. There was also a time limit in which the permission should be given, so it was being reduced. The time also has been reduced from, it was earlier 120 days, now it has made 90 days. And this also article tells us that red category is the most toxic emissions, and it should be under the EIA, Environment Impact Assessments. Next article is about the free trade agreement between FTA between India and EU. It is significant due to size of economies involved and demonstrate India's negotiation skill with a powerful counterparty. India has previously negotiated 8 FTAs with similar smaller economies, accounting for 16% of its total trade in 2024-2025. So the article talks about that why the India and European Unions, like our Prime Minister has also mentioned in his speech, that the deal is mother of all deal. So the articles also tells us that why the FTA between India and European Union is of is of multi-pronged benefits for India, because the number of people involved here. EU has a number of countries as a part of member, so India can directly get access to the markets of multiple countries only by signing FTA with the European Union. So this becomes an important FTA for India. Recently, India has signed FTA with 8 countries, which covers 16% of total trade, India's total trade in 2024. And EU alone, the 8 countries FTA covers 16%, and India EU control approx 12% alone. That is why this becomes more significance. Under new FTA, the European Union will eliminate tariffs on 99.5% of the Indian export, with most tariff dropping to zero immediately, while India will provide tariff concession on 97.5% of the European export. So there is a mismatch in the tariff concessions, because EU on one hand it will provide 99.5% exports will be exempted from tariffs. India will exempt only 97.5% of the goods. So there is a policy mismatch, but after all, it is going to benefit India much. India has successfully excluded the agriculture sector, the dairy sector from the deal, while EU excluded several sensitive agricultural sectors. The quota-based system was established for automobiles, protecting India's domestic manufacturers and providing opportunities for European luxury car makers. Quota-based wine tariff were also agreed upon, benefit French winemakers and protecting India's domestic industry. FTA includes separate agreements on mobility, defense, and technology. Mobility, defense, and tech. It includes the separate agreements. So there is a separate agreement for this in FTA. India could not secure concessions under the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, that is CBAM. This is a tax over the products which are carbon intensive, or which emits not only at the point of production but also in a whole process. The carbon have been emissions, and based on that level of emission the tax has been charged, and this is kind of a European Union's policy to control the climate change, and that is why, but India could not successfully get the concessions into this. But there is also agri sector, wine sector, automobile sector, where each other, once both India and European Unions have protected their domestic uh, protect their domestic industry. India negotiated a clause ensuring that any concession granted to third country under CBAM would automatically apply to it as well. Like if any grant, if any concession has been given to third countries, means other than India and India, if any country is getting the exemptions in the CBM, the India will automatically gets that similar concessions with that country also. This has been considered as a clause. To attract foreign investors, India needs to implement reform for large-scale manufacturing to leverage the FTA's benefit. The FTA document requires translation into 27 European languages and approval by each country and the European Parliament, potentially delaying implementation. So India must expedite the clearing process to ensure timely benefits from FTA, especially to counteract US tariff impacts. So this is all about the India-European Union's free trade agreements. India recently held India and Saudi Arabia. There was a defense dialogue, security dialogue in Riyadh, which focused on comprehensive review of ongoing security operations and threat posed by terrorist groups globally and regionally. This is a third kind of India-Arabia, Saudi Arabia security work group, co-chaired by Ministry of External Affairs and Ministry of Interior of Saudi Arabia. The discussion was on terrorism, extremism, and radicalization. Terrorism, extremism, radicalization. There was also a discussion on enhancing bilateral legal and judicial cooperation. The meeting is part of like ongoing cooperations under the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Plan. So this is all about the news of this topic. The other one is the headings tells that of Chinese economy. There was a news regarding it. In 2025, China's GDP exceed 140 trillion yuan. That is, China's GDP increased $20 trillion, marking a 5% year-on-year increase, with China contributing around 30% of global economic. China economic growth in 2025 was driven by domestic demand, exports and investments, with final consumption expenditure contributing 52% to growth. So this article tells about the reason for the growth in China, that is high domestic demands. There was domestic demand was high. Domestic demands means people were consuming more, so it led to consumption expenditure contributing to 52% of the growth. There was investment, there was exports increment. So all these contributed in China's growth. Export contributed approx 32.7% to China's economic growth, and high-tech product export growing 13.2%. There was also advancement in AI, quantum tech, and green industries. China's capacity utilization rate in 2025 was 74.4%, comparable to EU and US, driven by real global demand rather than overcapacity. So it utilized its 74.4% of its uh, capacity. China-India trade reached $155 billion. So India-China trade reached more than $145 billion, with India export to China increasing by 9.7%. That is 9.19, approx $20 billion. There was China maintaining a low tariff level of 7.3% and expanding its visa-free policy, offering opportunities for Indian products in its market. Central Economic Work Conference prioritized expanding domestic demand for 2026. This was a news about the China's increasing economy. There was a article where it talks about that there was student union leader at University of Delhi which slapped a teacher, highlighting a trend of calculated power display rather than spontaneous anger. Such incidents impact the teaching learning process and affect students who remain silent, thinking it is not their concern. Delhi University, considered as a prestigious institution, has been relatively less affected by violence compared to other places where teachers have faced severe attacks for preventing